Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for more of the 1v1 actions from Legends from the Ladder. And we've got an interesting one, guys. You see, on the one hand, we have a person who enjoys doing something. And on the other hand, we have a filthy damn robot because it is the return of AI Easy. That's right, we've been waiting so long, anticipating, hoping that after honing his craft, running the simulation a million times, and finally watching the newest Matrix movie, we would see his return. And here he is, AI Easy in the red, playing as England will face off against the Abbasids, being manned by Siege Enjoyer. And this one should be fun. Because both of these civs have a lot of early aggressive potential, right? Think about it. From the siege creep perspective, from the ram rush. I do think that Siege Enjoyer is going to be the one under fire just because the Lombos counter out your early units of spears. But I do like the idea of how this game can actually become very intriguing if Siege Enjoyer manages to sneak up in to Castle Age. And keep in mind that we have seen Abbasids in the past, not recently in the last week or two, but definitely before that, they have covered the early game weaknesses with just normie horsemen, right? Especially before they got nerfed slightly. And keep in mind, you're up against the Lombo spam of England. So I do expect Siege Enjoyer to be going into horsemen or archers at an early phase. And then I'm looking for that switchover. I prefer archers just because England can easily afford some spearmen early on. Spearmen are even stronger now than against horsemen they were once before. And also, the other cool detail to consider here is that if you go into archers early as the Abbasids, you have the option to then build into rams, go for a ram rush, or you can play a little bit later, and in the field, you'll have an army already in position to build your Mangonels and your Springalds. And that's where I think the Abbasids can crack this, right? The win condition in this game, to break it down simply for you guys, England is feudal. The win condition for the Abbasids is immediate castle. Now, there is a comeback opportunity in this game for England, and it revolves around them just aiming for a fast castle into mid-castle military ramp-up, right? Where you get your hands on the Siege Workshop, you have surplus economy, you have multiple TCs working for you. I just think that that is a little bit harder to pull off unless you do a good job of early aggression. So I do want to see AI Easy in the early phase of the game, building between 8 and 10 longbowmen and looking to harass the eco lines of Siege Enjoyer before he's online. Because when he does come online, initially in that Castle Age, he can run you through. So opening-wise, we do see Siege Enjoyer instantly go under the berry bushes. This is the play, guys. Do this every time. Screw the sheep. Actually, don't screw the sheep. It's not an Abbasid thing. That is more a English thing. Anyway, it is. Anyway, we always begin on the sheep, right? If you're playing England, you always start with sheep, and then you switch over to farms quickly. But if you're playing the Abbasids, do not begin... Whoopsie. Very sensitive keyboard. Do not begin with the sheep. The sheep are your safe fallback, right? If you get harassed, if you get pressured in, that's where you retreat to. You come under your TC, you gather this safely. Get rid of the more risky factor right now, these berries, which you also gather from quicker and increase the surplus is giving you as the opposite, right? Because when you put down a mill, you increase them from 250 to 500, and also you get a 25% increased gather speed on berry bushes compared to the default speeds that other civs get. So opening-wise, Council Hall already underway. Tech up is now beginning for Siege Enjoyer, and it should just be him likely dropping the archery range I'm expecting. And this is where he can hang around. If he hangs around and he just buffers off his opponent, that's where this choice comes in, right? If you see your opponent is building archers and you built too many longbowmen, you're actually in a lot of trouble as AI Easy. The reason being is that you won't be able to quickly boom up. Whereas if your opponent sees at any point he outnumbers you in the archer count and he keeps doing so, he can then move across. And remember that the Abbasids have the siege engineering research for free. So they can already build battering rams. So what I want to see out of Siege Enjoyer is as soon as he hits in his feudal, drop a double archery range and look to scale out an army. And then, depending on how much aggression your opponent throws out, if you see him led up on the Lombo count, either A, just tech boom up into castle, or B, push in and build 1 or 2 rams. So AI Easy, doing pretty much what all these English players do. He's not ramping up the speed at which he builds his landmark. You don't want to. Usually you want to have some surplus wood and food prepped so you can switch over a few farms. And then you can also constantly churn out his longbowmen. Because remember, they're very pricey. 40 food, 50 wood, and they produce every 5 seconds. Wait, is it 5 or 7? I think it's 7. I always get it mixed up. There we go. Let's see if my brain's right. There we see. It's 70. 77. How much sleep did I get tonight? Jeez. So yeah, this is where if you're Siege Enjoyer, you're about to tech up, you want to drop double archery range because you more or less can match the pace of the Longbowman. And remember, if you ever force him away, if he's never able to keep up that production of Longbowman and he has to retreat, your archers will run quicker. You will run him down, especially when you consider how much distance he has to retreat to get back to base. And here come the Longbows. And this is where I'd love to see AI Easy pull up and pull an outpost out of his ass right in the face of Siege Enjoy here, especially considering Siege Enjoy is doing this, and the stone outcroppings on the front of the base. This is very risky, and I don't think Siege Enjoy has done this quick enough. He needed 5 people. If he'd done 5 people in this, he'd actually have surplus stone in reserve, and then he could fall back to get the wood required to go into a TC, but he doesn't. He will, however, have the horseman we talked about. This is the perfect play to cover you for the first 3 or 4 minutes, but after that, do expect to see spearmen coming out from England. Okay, Siege Enjoy will look to back away. Billy's moved quick enough, 1.29 compared to the 1.12. And this is where we'll wrap round towards the berries. And this is where you'll just see Siege Enjoyer pull back, look to get on the sheep, and then AI Easy has to find a way to peel his opponent. There you go, Horseman comes out. And there's just not enough Longbowmen here right now, so you're going to get reasonable trades. You can definitely see how Horsemen suffer a little bit more compared to how they used to be, because that definitely hurt a lot more than it should for just a measly 4. Kind of a whiff. Maybe he should have waited for the second Horseman. I think if he waits for 2 Horsemen, he kills all the Longbowmen here. So kind of a missed trick. I don't want to see Siege Enjoy do this again. I prefer this play. He's trying to wrap. He's trying to get between where the army is and where the reinforcements are coming from, right, to pick them off. Instead, he engages with a wolf and still gets hit by a bunch of arrows. And have you noticed something here, guys? Oh, that's funny. AI Easy isn't producing more longbows. It's almost like he's happy with what he just forced out of his opponent. He forces a stable to go down. The Abyssists aren't going to utilize it differently. An Abyssal player, in theory, could go for pro scouts now that he's got a stable in place. He probably won't, though, because he's paranoid. He's going to want 3, maybe 4 horsemen. And that means that now, AI Easy, forcing that heavy investment, because remember, horsemen, they're pricey 100 food each, means you're going to have the edge to tech boom up into castle ahead of Siege Enjoyer. And this was discovered through hundreds and hundreds of this matchup. Remember, AI Easy has clearly been playing these matchups millions of times on a supercomputer. That's why he's able to understand when he can exploit this advantage and when he can tech up. Which, by the way, after his stint away, as he's been in his cave experimenting, if we look at AI Easy on the leaderboards right now, hey, look, we can't look. Hey, AO4net, you've got an error. Maybe get that back up. But last time we saw him, AI Easy had snuck into the top 100. I reckon he's sitting probably just outside the top 100 due to the lack of many games recently. But if this is how he plays, I think we're going to see him in the top 100 again, because Siege Enjoy definitely doesn't have an easy game ahead of him. And that's why he needs to find pressure. He needs to just try and snipe in, find a few villages, and that's why he's moving out with the horsemen. If you build these horsemen, you can't just sit them back at base. Otherwise, it's just a net deficient. And here we go. He's building in the pro scouts now that we talked about. Almost completed, scouts being built, and you won't be contested on this by England. Remember that England don't build stables. Right? They never build stables in the feudal. They maybe get into it in the castle when they want to build knights, which is one of their more favorable units to choose, but that's it. And as a result, horsemen moving in. Trying to poke. Maybe they get one of the villagers. Oh, no, they can't get the final hit. And they'll have to back away. 2 of them are heavily injured now. Longbows are out of position, are shifting across now. But you can see AI Easy being very frugal, still not spending on the Longbows. And he could afford 1 or 2, maybe 3 more right now, because his gold is the thing lacking. And instead, he's going to ramp up gold production. And that slowdown, look what it enables Siege Enjoy to now do. He's building the second TC. Now, keep in mind, he has no resources in reserve to really allow him to boom up into castle. So, although he'll be ahead on the villager count, he's going to be behind on the tech. And that does give a small window for AI Easy after he techs up into castle to heavily pressure you and try to close this game out quickly. Also, keep in mind, there's another kind of danger point coming down the line for Siege Enjoyer, which is when these food sources do dry up. He has to get access to these deer. If he somehow gets prevented by AI Easy, he's going to be forced in this uncomfortable situation where he has to switch into farmlands. Farmlands that are very easily switched into by England because of that discount right down at 37 wood cost per. Meanwhile, Horseman just actually laying out. I like this from Siege. He's using these as scouts in place of his scouts. Remember, his scouts are off gathering resources. This is something a lot of players don't do when their scouts go into pro scouts mode, right? They don't actually utilize vision still. So they play very blind, and they just ignorantly gather all this food, this delicious food, this gamey deer that you get food from quicker than most other sources, and they forget about the rest of the game. That's not what Siege is doing here. He's stationing these here to prep to see if there's a longbow spam. And if there isn't, then he's pretty cozy this TC boom up. What he really needs to do is be scouting in what's happening here, though. This King's Palace is very aggressively placed by AI Easy, and with this many villages, he's going to get away with it. And yeah, he has his own scout. Look, he knows what is and isn't coming. He sees the scout shifting by, and he's like, whoop-de-doo. That just means you're not coming to assault me anymore. That means that I'm getting away with a very, very greedy eco expansion here. And a high-value one at that, right? The gold vein close by, the berry bush. Also, just kind of a more expanded front line point for your base. It's somewhere you can garrison some villages. And remember, also, it functions like this with the network of castles benefit, right? Setting off the alarm and giving that attack speed boost to all your nearby units. What? All right, I guess that let's use some building terms here. What happened with that wall was, you know how when you kind of settle something and you're like building structures, you leave a small gap because naturally the like foundation expands. Well, not foundation, but the brickworks can expand. Something like that. You know when you build like something out of wood and you have to give that little bit of breathing room right in the joint because it's going to expand. There you go, guys. See, my D&T skills came in useful. I know how to work wood. I realize that these are not things I should say when I work in an industry that has the word casting couch. Yeah, that's definitely things to think about. So Rack's now being dropped, tech up underway. AI Easy did have the edge. You're always going to, though. Usually the adversaries do lag behind on average about 30 seconds over most civs just because the timing is fixed. And that's kind of the thing. It always looks like it's an advantage, right? Oh, I don't have to invest villagers in doing this. But there are a lot of downsides to it for the adversaries. One, you're not getting this building that has some unique variable to it, right? Like, oh, King's Palace is a TC. Or, oh, this is going to be a keep drop. Or, oh, this produces a unique unit. Or, oh, this allows me to bank relics and generate more resources. You see what I'm talking about? There's all these things you're missing out on. For the small upside of, I didn't have to use villagers to build it up. Makes you feel even worse when you consider civs like China, the Chinese. I don't know why I said it like that. I'm going full on London at this rate. But when you consider someone like China, right? The Chinese, the beautiful thing about them is they build twice as fast. So the landmarks take no time at all. So you don't really even think about it with China. You always invest 1, maybe 2 workers, and it barely hurts your economy. And that's before you even get into discussing other benefits you get. The Imperial Official, taxing. Then there's also, of course, the Song Dynasty allowing you to produce villages even quicker. There's just so many layers to it. Adversaries are kind of funky at the moment. They do have some potentials. And I think especially if trade ever gets buffed, this civ is going to be nutty as all hell. But right now, it's still having a lot of teething issues. I think the big power spike we've talked about that is so critical to succeed with this civ is now with the Castle Age into the Siege Crawl. Remember, you can build these Mangonels on the fly. It's such a powerful element that only the Mongols can also do. And there's a reason why the Mongols are considered top tier in competitive and still in pub games. And that is definitely high on the list. So, scanning around. Scouts move in for more of these deer. That's going to sustain him for longer. Really important that he keeps this up. Remember, you're on 2 TCs now. So while you're actually gathering a lot more in your economy, you're actually draining everything in front of you quicker. So you need to keep replacing it. In fact, he might need to switch over to some farmlands already. I feel like his food income's maybe suffering a bit. Where is he getting? Okay, he's got a few people back here. Okay, there's still some deer. I was looking in the wrong place. So yeah, he's still fine on that one then. He's still got some time to go. Meanwhile, relics being picked up. Lombo's trying to protect. And with only 1 horseman here, that should be an easy net for AI Easy. Take note of this, guys. There's definitely a lot of volume going into religion in these games. Okay, it fits with the time. I know in the 21st century, our religion is Facebook and Twitter. But back in these days, you know, you had a religion other than Gaben. You had to rely on the tithes, the taxes that come in. And those taxes are provided by these juicy relics. Ooh, Lancer coming out, though. Might put an end to that. He needs the wallet right now. Oh, that hurts. Right in the wallet. 150 gold just gone. He'll definitely go back and get it now. And in 3 minutes, he will have paid for it. And then everything past that is gains. But Nice snipe out there by Siege. Siege hasn't bothered to go for it yet. He's finally going to the mosque. And that's the thing. A lot of the time, we see players actually build into religion as a response to another player's religion, right? Unless you're up against HRE and the Rus, right? In which case, people prefer to like wall off those areas and just prevent them from picking up relics and snipe them constantly because they know they're desperate for it. When you see your opponent build into religion like this, you have to kind of match him. Otherwise, you worry about a game that could go for 50, 60 minutes just being in favor of them, because when all the gold has been depleted across map, they're still getting gold, and you're not. Lancer sniping in, doing a lot of work right now. Like, this one Lancer is actually quite frustrating, and look how much armor he's got. He doesn't even care. He's a vet longbowman as well, by the way. But still, able to snipe out, what was that, 3, maybe 4 villages? Yeah, you're happy if you're Siege. Count right now, 7 ahead for the Abbasids. And remember that replacing villages for them is cheaper as well because you have fresh foodstuffs. It's another element that makes the Abbasids so great, and why I consider them to be the most capable of the quickest town center timing is because they're able to actually build a TC and sustain it sooner than other civs. And then that's what's happening again as you ramp up from 2 to 3. And also, he's ramping up pressure into the base with the Ram and the Mangonels. And remember, these Mangonels are fantastic at sieging. Look at the damage being done. About 100 per shot. And it's very safe damage. And with only Lombos here to defend, AI Easy might be in trouble. One hit's good. Second one, dodges it out just in time. And with these man-at-arms here, AI Easy has not pivoted, and this is a problem. He's now building the man-at-arms for the early man-at-arms. They do not compete. They have crappy health and crappy damage compared to that of the Abbas's choice. And this is too late. AI Easy, fatal error here. Because he went into the monastery, it opened up this. He spent wood and gold there, which meant that he didn't actually have a transition yet. He should have had a transition a long time ago. He saw that the scouts came out. He saw that the horsemen came out. Where are the spears? The racks should have been dropped a long time ago, and instead it's going to be your King's Palace being dropped in the front of your base. And Siege will continue. And, well, we said it was in his name, and it seems to always be in the game for him. Siege Enjoyer is most definitely enjoying this one. The double Mangonel is uncounted, and that's the other detail, right? You're building up this military district in the back. Your opponent must be aware of it because he still only sees Lombos. You're spending all the wood there, and you don't have surplus for A, the workshop, and then B, the units that have to come out of it, which means you're never able to build Springalds. And with 3 TCs now, he's going to have surplus in the Abbasid reserves to push forward with even more siege weapons. The Ram's now being built up. More Mangonels coming out to play as well. And that gold trickle is not long for this world. Monastery soon to fall. Ram targeting on it. Mangonel line is ready for one hell of a volley if it's given an opportunity. Shots out. Decent damage done. The spread is good. The priest almost dead as well. Final shot comes in. Gets rid of a few more longbowmen. Man-at-arms will hold back the burn speed of AI Easy. Not able to snipe out the siege weapons at all. And he is running out of hope in this game quickly. Monastery full. Can't turn to religion anymore. Which is kind of fitting because you're going to need a miracle to turn this one around. Lombos doing barely any damage. The fatal era of England once more, as all they ever want to do is build Lombos. Where is the switch up? Where are the crossbowmen? The crossbowmen that are already upgraded to Castle Age standard could have been here and could have been a good solution up against the man-at-arms. You have no front line, really. He's trying to build one now with the man-at-arms that have finally been upgraded, finally after all that time. But England are just outmatched and outpaced here. And they're running out of base to hide behind. The Mangonels move further in. Bang Rams continue to just slog towards the council hall. Mangonel shots coming in. Good damage. These man-at-arms too slow to dodge out. And Siege Enjoyer will regroup back up a little bit and look to fire away towards his victory. Speaking of fires, everything in the base of AI Easy at this stage is just feeling like it's on fire. And in those flames will burn any hope he's got of actually recovering here. He's been sacrificed on the food front. He's lost actually 1/3 of his food income. He can't reach gold right now either. You can see how he's suffering, which means the man-at-arms is going to dry up soon as well. He's not getting that gold trickle because the monastery's gone, and that will convince him that with all those details against him, it's time to tap out. Siege Enjoyer shows you exactly why it's his favorite pastime. Well, we did say this, didn't we? We were warning against this, right? There was 2 possibilities of England winning. You either hard pressure early on, or you switch into like a quick Castle Age timing. And he did switch into a Castle Age timing, but he didn't prep for the aggression. That's the power, right? This is where the Abbasids are actually going to become tournament worthy very quickly. A lot of people are clocking this now. If you can force a Castle Age stalemate, they have an advantage over most civs in the game due to the fact that they can build into siege weapons immediately. 300 wood is a lot to pay. It's not just that you have to pay that 300 wood, it's that you're then generating these siege weapons incredibly slowly. Think about it. Springel's Mangonels like 30 seconds. We saw how quickly the Abbasids build up their units in the field. You just stack units around it, bingity bongity bush, they bow, they dance, they do a weird little jig, and all of a sudden you've got a Mangonel out of nowhere, right? They didn't even go and gather wood. They spontaneously just, I don't know, maybe they've just got infinite, like, I don't know, maybe from Dungeons & Dragons type games. They just got infinite bags of holding stored up their ass, and they just pull out timber one after the other and build the Mangonels in the field and the Rams as well. But whatever they're doing it well, and it allows them to always escalate a lot quicker than most other civs can at the beginning of Castle Age, giving them that edge and giving them the way of closing out by that 20-minute mark, as we so brilliantly saw from Siege Enjoyer. And if you want to see more of him, as well as plenty of Abbasids and other civs showing you exactly where your power spikes lie, be sure to subscribe to the channel, be sure to follow across on the Twitch side of things and Twitter, and make sure you click through to additional YouTube videos so that you can see exactly how those strategies get played out. Thanks for watching, guys.